today to talk to you all about bread. So, is bread an issue? Well, every day in the UK, around 20 million slices of bread get thrown away, and that is mostly bread that hasn't been used up in time. Hi, my name's Abby, and I'm here today to talk to you all about bread. So, first of all, I suppose, is bread an issue? Well, around 20 million slices of bread get thrown away in the UK every day, and most of that is because it's not been used up in time. So that means that the average person throws out more than half a loaf of bread every month. So today we're going to go through some top tips about how to buy it, store it, and use it to cut down on bread waste in your home. So first of all, when it comes to buying it, make sure you buy bread with the longest date. If you're buying fresh bread, look for the nice soft fresh loaves, not ones that have started to go hard or a bit stale, okay? Because the fresher they are, the longer they'll last. In terms of how to store it, you need to keep bread somewhere that's fairly cool, dark and dry. So a bread bin is a great example. Keep it in its original packaging. If the packaging splits, either pop it in a freezer bag. I like to wrap mine in beeswax wraps. If you're going to pop it in a freezer bag, make sure that you fasten it up either with the tag from the bag, a bag clip, or even just a peg. So if you do use a bread bin, do make sure you clean it regularly to get rid of any mould spores that can affect future bread and your health. So in terms of loaves, always keep the end crust on your bread. So it stops the next slice from drying out, and it also means that the last person to get to the loaf gets two nice pieces of crust for their toast, which is my personal favourite. So making sure that you leave that crust on and then you wrap the end of the bag up and tuck it under the bag, or keep it tight with a bag clip or something like that. You can reuse the best before tag that's on the bread as well. So one of the things about storing it is you can freeze any kind of bread. So bread rolls, sliced bread, pita breads, tortillas, bagels, you name it, muffins, crumpets, you can freeze them. Okay. The only thing about freezing sliced bread, I would recommend you give it a good tap on like your work surface before putting it in the freezer, because it stops the slices sticking together. So it means that when you want to take them out, they're easier to separate. Okay. Make sure it's well wrapped and it's airtight before you put it in the freezer. That'll help stop it get freezer burn. So your frozen bread, the slices from that can either be taken out and defrosted as you need them, either sort of put on a plate to defrost or in the microwave, or you can toast them straight from frozen. One of the things that you might not know about is that you can make sandwiches with frozen bread. So I learned this trick from a friend of mine who used to get a loaf of bread. He'd take 2 pieces of frozen bread out of the freezer, make his sandwich, put them in his lunchbox, and they'd defrost it during the morning so that they were a nice good temperature by lunchtime. Just don't put any salad in them. Another tip is to actually make your sandwiches and then freeze them. So any sandwiches that have got things like meat or hard cheese in can be frozen. So again, no salad, no cucumbers. Make up your sandwiches, freeze them, and then just take them straight out of the freezer and put them in your sandwich box in a morning, and you're ready to go. So they're probably my best tips in terms of storing it. In terms of using up bread, so most bread and bakery products can be eaten 2 days to a week after the best before date. So what I would say is give it a good squeeze. If it feels and looks the same as when you bought it, it's good to eat. If there is any mould on it, don't use it. Okay, it's too late. If you've got slightly stale bread, one of my favourite ways to use it up is either in eggy bread or French toast. So really simple, dip it in some egg or maybe a bit of egg and sugar, fry it, and either have it with spaghetti hoops like a traditional sort of camp breakfast, or with maple syrup, bacon and berries. But it's a fantastic way to use up slightly stale sliced bread. Another great way to use up bread is pizza. So you can make pizza with any kind of bread. Slices from a baguette, bagels, pita breads, tortillas, you name it, they make fantastic pizzas, or garlic bread. They're a great way to get kids involved in cooking as well, so they can make something their size with their toppings on. You can use sort of sliced loaf, little pita bread, you name it, bit of sauce on there, a few ingredients, and just toast it in the oven. Or if you're talking about things like rolls or bagels, you can make little pocket pizzas as well. There's a lot of fun to be had. One of the other great ways to use up bread is a much more traditional one, so it's bread and butter pudding. It's fantastic for any kind of stale or slightly old bread or bakery products. So if you've got things like brioche or croissants, they make a fantastic bread and butter pudding. It's really simple. We can share some bread and butter pudding recipes with you in the comments. So again, any type of bread works. If you're going to use a mixture of different types of bread, make sure you mix them up so you get all that different texture and the different flavours with every mouthful. Another fantastic way to use up bread is by making croutons. So really simply chop your bread up and either fry or bake it. So drizzle it in oil. You might want to add a bit of salt and pepper, maybe a few herbs. They make a really nice crunchy addition to salads, soups, sometimes just a little something to nibble on. And if you don't fancy any of those, another really simple one is breadcrumbs. So either whiz it up in a food processor, or if you haven't got a food processor, toast it and then grate it. And I know that sounds daft, but it really does work. So you can make breadcrumbs from any kind of bread, and they can be used straight out of the freezer as a savoury crumble topping, maybe with a bit of cheese. They can be used on a coating for things like chicken or fish. You can add them to stuffing, use them to thicken sauce. I always have a bag of breadcrumbs in my freezer. It's actually a bag of breadcrumbs mixed with cheese. So if I want to make like a pasta bake, just grab a handful of that, sprinkle it on the top, and it's good to go. It cooks from frozen. You can add some salt and pepper in there, but just keeping it in the top drawer of the freezer so it's really easy to get at. It's a fantastic way to use the penny bread you've got. If you're feeling particularly festive, you could have a go at making bread sauce. So we are in the run up to Christmas now. Simply make breadcrumbs and then mix it with a mixture of you'll need milk, onions and some bay leaves, but make a really nice homemade bread sauce from bread that you would otherwise have thrown away. Just in terms of a couple of top tips, so if your bread is feeling a little bit stale, you can just pop it in the microwave for 10 seconds and that will freshen it right up. If it's feeling a bit dry, rehydrate it. So sprinkle a bit of water on your stale bread and put it in the oven at 180 degrees for a couple of minutes to really revive it and make it really nice and tasty again. So that is my bread advice for you in a nutshell. So I suppose the really important things to take away are there's loads of ways to use up bread. So make sure you only buy what you need. Make sure you're buying the freshest bread you can. Make sure you keep it nice and airtight to keep it fresh, somewhere nice and cool. Don't put bread in the fridge because that makes it go stale quicker. You would only put bread in the fridge in really hot weather. We're unlikely, it's not very often that in the UK we get weather hot enough to need to put bread in the fridge. So stick it in your bread bin or in a cool dark cupboard. And then if you don't use it up in time, turn it into breadcrumbs, use it to make pizza, croutons, eggy bread, any of those sorts of things. So thank you for joining us today, and we will be back soon with some more Love Food Hate Waste tips, and we will share our favourite recipes below. Bye!